on, everybody? It's your buddy, it's your pal Spaz Phoenix, and this is Flix Fix for the first time since November last year. Now, it's kind of ironic because the first thing that I'm going to talk about this year was talked about in that last pod last year. The last pod last year was looking forward to some of the horror movies we can see in 2024. Now, fast forward about 3 months, 4 months or so from then, and we've got one of the movies that I talked about on that list. And I don't think I've ever, maybe from a movie, but definitely not from a trailer, I don't think I've ever come up to you guys to talk to you about something I am more conflicted on than what we're going to talk about tonight, right now, whenever you're listening to this, whenever you're sticking me in your ear holes. And thanks for listening, by the way. They're remaking The Crow, the 1994 Brandon Lee classic The Crow movie is what they're remaking, and I should hate this. I love the original Crow movie. The original Brandon Lee Crow is fucking amazing. It's one of a kind. The fact that anybody's even touching it is ballsy. I'll give them that. But I should hate this because we're in an age now where everything's either getting a 20-year sequel or it's getting remade. And for the most part, the remakes, I mean, look at all the all-female Ghostbusters and let me know how that went for you. But then they turned it around with some of the newer ones that are coming now. So I don't know. I love The Crow. I love the idea, the essence of the Crow movies, which will come as no surprise to anybody. You guys know I come up here, I talk about monster movies, I talk about sci-fi, I talk about anti-heroes, I talk about goth shit, I talk about dead shit. As I look across my movie shelf right now, my DVDs, and I do mean DVDs, not Blu-rays, The Crow City of Angels, The Crow Salvation, The Crow Wicked Prayer, and the short-lived TV series, The Crow Stairway to Heaven, are all sitting on my shelf above me as I record this right now. In DVD form. Not Blu-ray. Not anything else. I mean, if I went back any farther, I'd probably have them on VHS, but it is what it is. I love the character of the Crow. I love the whole essence of that movie is fucking perfect. So I come back to, like, I should hate this because it's happening so much recently. The biggest offender, I'm sorry, is Disney, because they're literally just taking all their cartoons and turning them into real movies. And like I say, other shit's just getting remade. Roadhouse just got remade. Mean Girls just got remade. And it drives me nuts, and I roll my eyes, and I should hate this. I really, really should. But then when I look at a series like The Crow and the mythology that goes along with The Crow, I've never read a single Crow comic. I should put that out there right now. My knowledge of the character, the Eric Draven character, comes from the first Brandon Lee movie. It's much like when I talk about comic book movies, I'm talking about what I've seen in the movies, and that's it. I have to be very clear about my entry point because other people will come in and say, well, the comic did this and the comic did that, and whatever the case may be. Now, the reason that other people don't like remakes is the same reason that people don't like music covers. Now, I'll become a hypocrite here because with music, I'm kind of the opposite. With music, I'm like, I like that song, and I like that artist, so let's see what that artist does with that song. And I try, although the movie, the Hollywood, whatever, the Oscars just passed by as well, and we got to see naked John Cena, so that was something. I try to apply that same thing to movies as well, because I do agree that we're getting too many remakes. I don't agree with the reaction of, well, nobody can be Brandon Lee, nobody can top that movie, nobody can be that, nobody can recreate that. My response to that is I don't want them to. Like a cover in music, if you're just going to do a cover, if you're... Hailstorm did a cover of Heathens around the time Suicide Squad came out, and Lizzie Hale is an amazing vocal artist if you've never heard of Hailstorm, and it doesn't sound at all like Heathens by whoever initially does it. Really terrible reference because I can't think of who sings it now. She made it her own. This is Hailstorm's version of Heathens off of one of their Reanimate CDs. If you're not listening to Hailstorm, go listen to Hailstorm. But To the people that are saying that this movie can't be what that movie was, that Bill Skarsgård, who's an awesome actor, can't be Brandon Lee, you're right. And I say can't not from an ability point of view, but can't from an intent point of view. Don't do a Brandon Lee impression. Be as far away from Brandon Lee as you possibly can. It's the same reason as I wouldn't want anybody in Marvel to try to be Chadwick Boseman. It's not only impossible because we hold these people on pedestals, but it's also kind of disrespectful because they've both passed away. So this will never be what the 1990s movie was. Where I want to stop there and say that right now is, if this movie tries to be that movie, I'll be disappointed. If this movie tries to be its own thing, which I think it needs to be, and fails, I will call it a noble failure. Is it a cover or is it karaoke? There, that's my first point. For those of you that don't know, and I will say, for anybody that doesn't know what The Crow is, I will say go back and watch the original, the Brandon Lee 1990s version. But long story short, and you'll get all this from the trailer, guy and a girl, in love, engaged, whatever the case may be, they come across some criminal element. The criminal element kills them. Through supernatural means, the spirit of a crow brings the husband back to life, makes him kind of immortal for a certain period of time, and allows him to avenge himself and his fiancée. That's the Coles Notes version of it. It's sort of the Casper analogy, where why do ghosts exist? Well, ghosts exist because they had unfinished business on Earth. This is the really dark and dank version of that. And then sort of the harbinger of this particular person that's brought back this particular way becomes the Crow. And the Crow is just a generally spooky thing in general. That's the story. That's Eric Draven and Shelley Webster, and they die, they're engaged, and we go from there. Go watch the initial movie. It's fucking awesome. I don't expect this to be as good as that. I'm curious, though. This is where, am I excited about it? No. Am I curious about it? Yes. Am I bummed about it? I don't know yet. This is where the conflict comes in. Now, for the rest of this pod is going to be for people that are familiar with that first movie and are probably freaking out about it right now. Now, you'll know, if you're familiar with the first one, that all the other spin-offs that I just mentioned, City of Angels, Salvation, Wicked Prayer, Stairway to Heaven, are all fine, but they're all knockoffs of the first movie in quality. That's my opinion. I'm not stating that as fact. But if we're going to compare this one directly to the first one, because the first one is Eric Draven and Shelley Webster, and that's the story that they're recreating, let's talk about some of the differences. The look is different. He looks different. He doesn't look like the 1990s grunge rocker Eric Draven of the 1990s movie. The set photos were released first, and people went nuts. People went with a very unfair comparison and said, oh my god, it's Jared Leto's Joker. Now, this is going to be put me on a little bit of a side tangent, because, unpopular as it is, I will defend Jared Leto's Joker. Not because I think it was good, but I don't think he was bad. People have this incredibly disheveled opinion that Jared Leto was a horrible Joker. He did a horrible job in that movie. Now, his character was minimized within the movie, but that's another story. Jared Leto did not do a bad job as the Joker. Jared Leto did an awesome job at a version of the Joker that nobody wanted to see. The studio, or the people making that movie, came up with a version of the Joker that was very different from anything else we'd ever seen. People didn't like that version of it, and they weren't going to like it no matter how good Jared Leto did in it. Now, I do think, very much the same way, Bill Skarsgård's version of Eric Draven will be very good at a version of that character that people are going to have to decide whether they like or not. But that is not the same as him being bad himself. And even the criticisms are saying, like, hey, we really like Bill Skarsgård, but this ain't it, type of thing. Now, one of the comparisons, one of the statements that I said, because there is a pretty famous scene, because he's the Crow. Crow's not a raven, they're not the same thing. But there's a scene in the first original movie where he walks into one of the criminals, like, I don't know if it's his place, it's his apartment, but it's his living space, and he starts quoting Edgar Allan Poe, The Raven. Suddenly I heard a tapping as if something gently rapping at my chamber door. Did you hear me rapping at your door? Is this, from the little bit that we've seen in this trailer, is this the kind of Eric Draven Crow that's going to be spouting out mythical, reprisals of, Shakespeare or Edgar Allan Poe or anything like that? Probably not. Now, on a very, very disjointed side note, if you want something that is very, very deep in the guts of Edgar Allan Poe and that imagery and that mythology, I do encourage you to go check out The Fall of the House of Usher, which is a 8-episode series on Netflix, which is literally based on the different works of Edgar Allan Poe, and there is some dramatic reading of specifically that poem, which is very, very awesome. Now, is this version of the Crow going to be spouting off stuff like that and being all, Batman hiding in the shadows, which I'm down for, that. No. And that goes in with the look. He's very tattooed. He's very lean. Somebody accused him of being a very British Eric Draven. I don't know what that means entirely. But the look is very different. The look is not, him in tight leather pants, dressed like a 90s rocker and whatever the case may be, basically looking like he looked before he died, because he was a musician, and it was this, this hot musician and his fiance and this love story and all that kind of thing. But the aesthetic was, he basically came out of the ground dressed like he dressed when he was alive, when he was a rocker, when he was a performer, and then the iconic image of the Crow face. It inspired, if you're a wrestling fan, obviously you follow this channel because 99% of this channel is talking about wrestling, but the Eric Draven Crow, played by Brandon Lee back in the 90s, was what inspired Crow Sting. That's why we call it Crow Sting. Steve Borden, who just retired recently, so happy retirement to him. But he had such an effect that he affected the lifelong career of Steve Borden Sting, and it was literally, he went back to his apartment in the movie, and you can go back and I'm gonna double down on this. Go back and watch the original, because it's fucking awesome. There's this awesome scene of him coming out of the ground, going up on the roof, playing some music one last time, smashing his guitar, going to their apartment, which was still a crime scene a year later, which is weird, throwing on all his black gothy looking gear and then painting up his face with what was left of his girlfriend's makeup, sitting at the makeup station. The look is different. He's tall, he's lean, he doesn't have the long hair, he's all tattooed up, which is bringing up all the Jared Leto Crow thing. But here's the thing. In the 90s, they made this guy look like a rocker from the 90s. This movie is set in 2024. That's not an excuse. That is a creative decision on their part, but it doesn't look like they're going back in time. So if they have a 90s grungy rocker in a 2024 story, it's going to look out of place, and it's like, oh, you decided that this guy was going to be this before he even died. So I get it. It's not great. It's not going to resonate with everybody, but there is a logic to it, and I will say the version of the face paint that they've got is a choice, but I'll acknowledge the look is what it is, and it's modern, and the movie itself is not nearly as dark. Pretty much the entire original Crow movie is dark and dank and almost completely unsaturated of color, and it's raining all the time, to the point where in the story it's mentioned that his band, that I can't think of the name of because I'm incredibly unprepared for this, his band played a song, and it was played on a record, because that's how long ago it was. I don't think anybody's playing records in this movie. But one of the lyrics of one of his songs was, "It can't rain all the time," because literally in the movie it's raining all the time. But so no, the look of it is modern and new, and what he looks like now is, I'm sorry, for better or for worse, what a rocker of that type looks like today. And you might not like it, but it does work. It does sort of fit. Now, do I like it particularly? No, but I know where it's coming from. Now, the criminal element. Let's talk about the criminal element, because the criminals in the original Crow movie were all psychopaths, were all druggies and heroin and crack addicts, and they were knocking over convenience stores. One of the opening scenes is them knocking over an arcade and all this and all that, and they're dealing with skeevy, pawn shop guys. They're very low, sort of bottom of the barrel criminals that he's dealing with. except for like the head of the gang or whatever and his weird sister, and that's a whole nother story for another day. But there's a lot of drugs, a lot of grungy street kids, and a lot of grungy street criminals, and there's a level to that. Now, he's, you know, portrayed as sort of like this beginning artist type thing. Him and his girlfriend have like a one-room apartment, and they're right in this crime-riddled area. So there's not a big status gap, I would say. And that's a lot of fun because you are... What's the Joker line? You know, a couple bad days and you could be just like me. He's fighting criminals of that ilk. Now, 2024... you see these people that he's fighting, that he's coming after. They're driving around in limos, and they're being very affluent. And you know, there's whispers between heads of industry and people that look very successful. And somebody in a elegant evening gown is whispering something to somebody in a tuxedo as they go into a gala or something like that. So it's very 2024. Because we are required by Hollywood, almost by law, to remind you with every movie we make. It doesn't matter the genre. If they have money, if they are successful, if they are affluent, if they have some power, they must be the bad guy. And it's obnoxious, and it drives me nuts, because it's very, very predictable. But also, on the other side of that coin, I said the movie has to be different to justify its existence. And him walking into a boardroom or a ballroom with people that have never been challenged in their lives because they're super bad rich people, and even, you know, being face to face with him with a gun in their face, they still don't think they're touchable, and then him proving them that they're wrong. That is a cool dynamic. That is a cool dynamic. It is cool to, like, see the fall of a king, so to speak, rather than him dealing with, you know, some of the crackheads and whatnot, and I think a lot of them were in the original movie were on like morphine or whatever, and it was just a matter of like, okay, you're crazy, let me show you crazy, like, let's have a crazy off. Between that and just the totally obnoxious rich guy that thinks he's 10 feet above everybody, it's a different dynamic. It makes the movie different. It makes a case, it makes a justification for this remake, because it has to be different to justify it having a remake at all. So I don't mind that entirely, even though I'm going to double down on this. Hollywood's obsession with telling you anybody that has more than you, anybody that has money, anybody that has power, anybody that has authority is automatically bad is still disgusting. It is. Just is. Now, the violence is tuned up to 11 in this, which is going to double down on something I'm going to talk about later on as far as character development and goes and all that. There's a lot of really cool fight scenes in the original Crow movie. A lot of, you know, street fighting, hand to hand. I'm just gonna like beat the shit out of you. One of the guys is really good with knives, so he stabs him with all his knives. One of the guys is a pyro guy, so he dies in a fire. And then we get this awesome image of the Crow burned in the asphalt with a trail of gasoline. Very, very similar to what they did in the third Dark Knight movie when he put his bat signal on fire on the side of a building. In this one, it seems very much more gory, very much more, you know, we're going to slice and shoot up and all those types of things, and we're going to see the blood, we're going to see the viscera of it all. They've really doubled down on that, and they've slapped an R rating on what seemed to be the style of action that this is going to be. Him getting riddled with bullets and still being soaked in his own blood, even though he can't die, is kind of a cool image, because by the time you get up the stairs, there's a scene in the trailer when he's coming up the stairs to stare somebody in the face, and it's like, blood is coming out of every part of me, and I'm still standing. What are you going to do about that? The raw nature of the fight scenes and the violence in this movie do have my attention, and it does seem like they're going really over the bar in that regard, so that's really cool. Now, other missing characters in this, and now I'm saying this is a first trailer, I could be very, very wrong. In the first movie, he's driven by nothing but vengeance. He's there, he's going to wreck a bunch of fools, and then he's going to let himself die so he can go back and be with his fiancée. He's got no other motives, no other motivations, no other anything, except for the little girl Sarah, who sometimes hung out at the apartment with him and his fiance, who didn't really have much of a mom because she was a drug addict herself, etc. Sarah was a street kid, very street smart, portrayed as a very strong female character for the time. Now, what did that do? That gave him something to worry about other than his own vengeance, which was a character thing. It also led to a pretty cool scene with him and the addict mom, because he sort of grabs her by the arm, and I guess it's because he's, you know, supernatural and he has the superpowers or whatever, and he literally wrings the morphine out of her arm and says, "You got to pull your shit together. Your daughter's out on the street waiting for you." Now that's a cool moment as well, because not only has he turned from his vengeance to this young friend that he had when he was alive, but he's making sure that she will have a mom when he has to go and die again. Now it's a really weird moral conversation to have when you die again, but it is what it is. And the other one is the cop, who's played by Ernie Hudson, who's also in Ghostbusters, which is coming back soon, so it's all coming full circle. The only person that really realizes like what he is, as far as he can't die, as far as like knowing exactly what happened to him, the sad thing that happened to him and his fiancée a year ago, is this cop. And it's really the only guy that he can sit with through the entire movie and be like, wow, this is shit. And they both have a drink, and he tells the cop that he shouldn't smoke because it'll kill him, ha ha ha. And it gives him one person to connect with, one person to kind of assist him on his way, and it provides a cool moral thing for the cop as well, because it's kind of like Jim Gordon and Batman, in the sense of, I can't 100% abide by what you're doing, but I know the sadness of what's happened to you. And it's revealed in the first movie that after Draven dies, the cop stayed with the fiance for the next like 30 hours and saw her 30 hours of pain trying to hold on and trying to not die, and then eventually, and he sees it by like seeing his thoughts and whatever, and he passes on that pain to the final boss guy at the end before he throws him off a pier there. And so he's got these little connections with this little girl that he used to take care of when he was alive, and with this cop that tried to help him, even though it was just very briefly. We didn't see anything like that. And we don't have those human connections. We don't have those connections to ground him while he's on his vengeance tear. So he just looks like a locomotive going straight ahead in the trailer, which is leading a lot of people to make the joke that this is goth John Wick. Now, I don't think that that's what it is. I think more will be revealed when we see another trailer, but also immortal goth John Wick wouldn't be the worst thing in the world either, just saying. Now, I'll tell you why I like this character, because he is a character that I like, and he is a character that I gravitate towards, and it is very Batman-esque, very V for Vendetta-esque. Number one thing is he's not a hero. He's absolutely not a hero. He's not trying to go out there and say that he's doing the right thing. In a world where we are bombarded, in a cinematic world, I should say, where we are bombarded with the Supermen and the Captain Americas and it's an entire mockery, but like how something like The Boys has Homelander that totally makes fun of that idea, but like, I'm going to save you, but I'm going to save you because it's the right thing to do, and I'm going to make sure the world is on the right path again. And it's like, no, you killed my fiance and you killed me, so now I'm going to kill you. It's very human. And he's a dead character, being the most human character in the entire movie. He's not trying to set an example. He's not saying, look at me, I'm doing things the right way. He's going at it from the, I don't care if this is the right thing or the right way point of view. It's also, you can't say that this is real, because like reincarnation and all that sort of stuff isn't an actual thing. But the way he handles coming back to life, and I'm talking about the Brandon Lee version, obviously, the way he handles coming back to life, and the fact, like, it's a two-pronged sword. He realizes that he's come back to life, and he realizes that he's immortal. And those two things psychologically would wreck you. Waking up and finding out that you were dead and you're not dead anymore would do things to your brain that we've never experienced as sort of human society. And he's crazy through the whole movie. But even in your saddest moment, even when you're like, I'm supposed to be dead and I'm not, and I can't be with my fiance because she is dead, so even at least if I was dead, I'd be with her in death, and that's incredibly, incredibly sad. But there's the manic part of your brain that, holy fuck, I can't die. You picture these characters off screen thinking, okay, can I stab myself in the hand? Does that hurt? Can I cut my own throat? Would that even do anything? Can I shoot myself? And obviously in the fight scenes later on, you see him playing around with that a whole lot, but that would drive you crazy. And as much as he's enjoying it in a very superficial way, he's enjoying it in the sense that his brain can't handle it, he uses that mania against the people that he's fighting. There's two particular scenes, and they've been mimicked in the new movie as well, where one of the criminals is like, "Didn't we kill you?" He's like, "Yeah, you did." Like, what do you do to say to that? In the original movie, he's got a conversation with the cop where the cop is trying to stop him, and he's like, "Oh, I don't even know how to handle this." But he says, I say, "Don't move, Ghostface. You move, you're dead." And he says, "Okay." I say, "I'm dead," and I move, and he sort of slides to one side, and he has so much fun with it, and he has so much, like, I don't even know how to put this into words, so I'm really failing right now. But he sells the mental break that would be caused by finding out that you were dead and you come back to life and you can't die. Like, the human brain can't absorb all that. So he plays crazy really, really well, and he's driven by rage. Like, rage is understandable, and the whole concept of I'm going to come and kill you because you killed me is a paradox that should never exist. And we all know, if somebody comes to kill me, if, you joke around with friends sometimes, like, if I die, I'm going to come back and haunt your ass because, we're friends, we'll always be together. Like, you make those kind of jokes with your friends if you're having a really morbid joking session. But, of course, anybody would say, yeah, if somebody killed me, I would come back and kill them. Like, that's a natural human response. And like I say, it's so human in a very, very psychological type of way that he's such an identifiable character. Like, you did the worst thing possible to me and the person that I love, I'm going to eliminate you. It's not because you're a criminal, it's not because I'm protecting the rest of the world from you, it's because fuck you for what you did to me. And the whole not a hero thing is so fucking on point in the original movie. If they don't nail in this, I'll be the first one to come back and say they fucking failed. Now, the last thing, and again, this is something that's more specifically to me. The first movie, and all the criminal activity in the first movie that leads to the first couple of deaths and whatever, revolve around Devil's Night, which is the night before Halloween. I love Halloween. I love all the unsettling nature of everything that comes with Halloween. The whole nature of, this day doesn't feel okay and it's not supposed to. I love everything that comes with Halloween, and the fact that this came through Halloween. In the original movie, they were set to be married on Halloween. They were killed on Devil's Night. They were supposed to get married the next day. From what I can tell in this trailer, there isn't any reference to that at all. There's no connection to Halloween. There's no connection to Devil's Night. There's no connection between Devil's Night and the criminals, because it's a completely different kind of criminal. If this is not set... Okay, this is a really petty, picky thing on my part. If this is not set around Halloween, or at least a reference to Devil's Night, it will lose points with me, because of course this kind of weird, creepy, supernatural shit should happen on Halloween. I said not too long ago, because in my area where I live, just outside of Toronto, they've just outlawed fireworks. So New Year's Eve, we can't have fireworks. Canada Day, we can't have fireworks. If anybody up here was celebrating 4th of July, we wouldn't be able to have fireworks. All that kind of thing. But it always came to me that, like, of all the holidays that use fireworks, why was Halloween never a fireworks holiday? Big noise, big sound, big spectacle. How did that never tie into Halloween? It just makes sense, or it just makes sense in my head anyway. You guys can tell me if I'm crazy. But this kind of character, this kind of, like, dead person coming back to life, this, to use a Marvel reference once again, this spirit of vengeance, just belongs on Halloween, or belongs on Devil's Night, the night before Halloween. And if they don't tie that in, I'll be a little bit bummed. But yeah, the character is still driven character is still not a hero, just an undead guy driven by rage, and I'm okay with that. We're missing a couple of characters that I want accounted for by the next trailer, if not in the movie itself. It looks like the violence is going to be turned up to 11, which I'm totally down for. We've had a completely different change in what kind of enemy he's going after. There's a completely different look, which suits today's vibe. I'm sorry, but it does, and you can like that or you don't. But I still come up to what I asked at the beginning, because it has to be different. It does have to be different to justify its existence. If it's trying to be the 1990s movie, it's going to fail. If it's trying to be the 2024 telling of the story, then at least they've gone in the right direction. So I will go back once again to what I said at the beginning of this pod. Am I excited about it? I don't know. Do I hate it? I don't know. But am I curious? For all my sins, fuck yes. Let me know what you guys think down in the box below. I know there's a lot of different opinions about this one going around. I've been Spaz. This has been Flix. Subscribe up there, talk down there, start a conversation. Keep all of these conversations going. Don't be a stranger. I will talk to each and every last one of you later, but for right now, I am out of here. Bye, guys.